So the LMPD is out of control, okay? So the Louisville police, they're attacking everybody of all walks of life, all ages, all nationalities. They're equal opportunity oppressors. And the Louisville police, through the span of 1997 to 94, they were slaying lots of innocent people. In January 2001, Clifford Lewis Jr. had got murdered by Johann Steimle, and Johann Steimle was plainclothes LMPD, and the plainclothes, doing investigative work undercover. I can understand every once in a while, but some of these folks they're in plain clothes all the time, and so let's just go through with this because when someone's in plain clothes, how can you determine whether they're just some random thug coming around to try to jump you, or if they're actually, have some sort of official capacity? So Clifford Lewis Jr., 2001, January. You have Johann Steimle, who's in plain clothes, LMPD. He murdered Black Clifford Lewis. 13 shots. He shot him 13 times. And it hit him in the back, okay? So shot in the back, and he's in plain clothes. Way too many shots. So, I mean, that's like a trifecta right there. Shooting him in the back, shoot women way too many times, and plain clothes, so they're getting jumped. He's going to get jumped by a plainclothes person, and then plainclothes person is going to shoot them in the back. 13 shots. 13 shots. There's no reason to shoot somebody that many times. The Johann Steimle, the filthy, got the grand jury to call him not guilty. So again, the grand jury is blocking an indictment. The grand jury doesn't find any probable cause. How's the grand jury not finding probable cause for murder, for homicide? We've seen this happen several times. No grand jury indictment. So they're being covered up internally. The prosecutors getting the grand jury not to issue any indictment. And it's, ridiculous. So, the Louisville cops shot Clifford Lewis Jr. with 13 shots in January 2001. Clifford Lewis was shot by Louisville cops at the White Owl Liquor parking lot. So at the White Owl Liquor parking lot on Dixie Highway. On Dixie Highway in Wilson. They shot him 13 shots in the back just for being too black. Clifford Lewis got wolf-packed, and he was surrounded by plainclothes white men. 15 of them with all their guns drawn on Dixie and Wilson. So you're sitting in your vehicle, I think a van. He's sitting in a van at White Owl Liquor parking lot, and then all of a sudden you got 15 white males just coming at you with guns drawn. What would you expect? You wouldn't know what was going on. You just supposed to assume that, they must be the police. They must be doing something right. So he's sitting there at the White Owl parking lot. You got 15 plain white clothes people just jump out, so he thinks he's getting jumped by the Ku Klux Klan, and it's wolf-packed. Wolf-packing is a Louisville, or is a police tactic, and the way wolf-packing works is they just overwhelm you with force, and they want to do that so that way there's no resistance. People don't like just to watch somebody just get traumatized or beat up, and so if they just send a lot of people, there was that one man in San Francisco that got shot and that was dead, and the only thing the cops were worried about was crowd control. Well, they shot the dude, and he's bleeding all over the place, struggling for life, and instead of any of the police actually doing anything for him, they keep on saying there's a gun, there's a gun. The man didn't have a gun. He's struggling to live, and he just rolls over and then dies, and the only thing the cops would give a shit about was crowd control. They just don't want the crowd to get mad at them. But when they're just worried about controlling the crowd, they let an innocent man die. So they wolf-packed him. They wolf-packed him while they was doing in plain clothes. LMPD that day, they was trigger happy. They were spraying a gunfire shootout like Nazis on the beaches of D-Day at Normandy. The LMPD, they picked Johann Steimle to be the fall guy patsy. After being wolf-packed, Clifford Lewis Jr. drives off, being shot at several times. It's also a young man, 18, 19 years old. He crashes his minivan 1 block away into the house on the corner of Dixie Highway and Ormsby. So he starts out at Dixie Highway in Wilson and then drives off, and then he's getting shot as he's driving off, and then eventually he crashes into the corner of Dixie Highway in Ormsby, and he's still alive. So they shot him several times. There's nothing on him. They find nothing on this man. He's unarmed, has nothing in his system at all. And that's whether if he had a gun, that doesn't mean he had used the gun, right? And if he had something in his system, that still doesn't say that he committed any crime. That says nothing. But when you find absolutely nothing on them, there's nothing. He's beyond innocence. His innocence, like, to an utmost degree, to on a whole nother level. So he was still alive. They shot at him, and since he was still alive, they went over there and they shot him some more times. And that just shows how. I mean, that just shows how barbaric these fucking people are. They are so barbaric. They shoot an innocent person and they're still twitching. Instead of getting any type of help for the person, they just get rid of the witnesses. They just get rid of all the evidence. This is Louisville, Kentucky, January 2001. So he's only 18 years old. Clifford Lewis Jr. was. They covered up their liability, right? He was barely twitching, still surviving, barely hanging on. They went over and they murdered him, and almost to the point where he was unrecognizable. He was 18 years old, shot up 13 times. They tried to say he was reaching in his waistband. Okay, so this again, instead of actually taking on their crime and being held accountable for it, they're going to do just like what we see lots of police officers do, especially here in Louisville. They're going to cover up their crimes, and the way they're going to cover it up is by lying. So what they said, what Johann Steimle and his boys, 14 other people, what they said was that as he was driving away in his minivan, he reached into his waistband, and since he was reaching into his waistband, they had to shoot. None of this makes any sense. He's sitting at the Whiteout parking lot. We see the vehicle driving away. We see the shots being fired at him as he drives away. And how can you debate that? How can you say, well, no, he wasn't? There's no video footage and there's no witness statement. So let's assume what they're saying. Okay, let's see if it could even possibly be true. And they're saying that he's in the van and they see him reach into his waistband. He's in the van and they see him reach into his waistband. So if you're in a van and you're driving, how can you see if anybody's reaching into the waist? How can you see if, like, right now, like, you can only, it'd be like, right now you can only see me just as much as you can see, if I was driving. So if I'm driving and you see me put my arm down, you don't even know if I have it in my waistband or not. You just see my arms drop down, but they said they saw him reach into his waistband. That's not even possible. If he's in the van, they couldn't even see where his waistband was. So it's bullshit. They lied. Just like that 95-year-old man, they had got shot with a beanbag into the gut and they had internal bleeding. They plant a butcher knife on him. And so, I mean, he actually didn't have anything planted on him. So he has no weapon on him. Why would he be even reaching in his waistband for any reason? There is no apparent reason at all. It's a lie. So Clifford Lewis is still kicking, hanging on to life without he was fighting. Johann Steimle shoots Clifford Lewis in the face to make sure that Clifford Lewis is dead. There's no indictment. There's no indictment for Johann Steimle. Johann Steimle gets to run free. He's a murderer. The grand jury said there was no indictment, even though there's a dead body. Like these things don't make any sense. There's too many inconsistencies. So just for trifling, violent riots, they did nothing. They had no gun, no drugs. Clifford Lewis did no crime, and now he's got no life. I mean, goddamn, fuck this. This is a pretty shitty city. January 9th, Clifford Lewis, 18 years old, was killed by detectives of the Undercover Street Crimes Unit. So this is like another Viper unit type thing, a rogue militia force going around doing whatever they want with no accountability. They pulled into the parking lot behind the van. He was driving in an unmarked sport utility vehicle. The plain clothes, so they said they was in an unmarked sport utility vehicle. So the plainclothes officers approached him with guns drawn, thinking he was someone else, and according to witnesses, no warning was given. So, this is just incredible. January 9th, 2001. This is the Louisville police. So they pulled into the parking lot. The officers approached him with guns drawn, right? Automatically, they just got their piece out. So I don't see him reaching to his waistband. I just see him taking off. There's, why pretend that you got something that you don't? And then when he takes off, I see them shooting the car. Then, you know, as he's driving, the car's still going in the direction it's going, and then that's when it crashes into the corner of Dixie and Ormsby. You know, they said he's reaching for the waistband. How could they tell? By the outside of the van. And then they found that there was no gun. But he was struck by 5 bullets. So they shot him 13 times. Five shots hit him, and from different angles occurred. Journal reported that Detective Johann Steimle, the principal, or perhaps the only shooter, and the other 6 detectives who were all there have previous use of force reports in their files. So anytime there's a use of force, they need to put that into their file. I don't know if they're still doing it or not, but that's what they're supposed to be doing. Anytime there's use of force, right, they need to justify it. But see, I don't know if they're still doing this anymore. It doesn't seem like there's an active citizenry as there had been before. And so, you know, they're not doing what they're supposed to be doing. They all have tainted records. 6 other detectives. So I'd said 15 people, but I mean it's still 7 people. 7. That's a gang. 7 people just running up to you, plain white men. You don't know who they are. You know, plainclothes white men. You don't know who they are. There's lots of plainclothes white men, and you're just supposed to assume everybody out here is a police officer. Anybody that comes up to you with a gun, you're just supposed to say, "Okay, police officer, what do you want?" By doing that, you're actually you're tainting everybody. You're tainting the police, because the police should be clearly, hey, we're the police, this is our official capacity. But you're also, you know, you're making it seem as if the general population is to be feared, because who knows who the police could be. So that happened in January 2001. This is after Adrian Reynolds was shot and murdered. This was after Desmond Rudolph was killed. And Desmond Rudolph, they show how white supremacy and the power structure had stood up for the police chief who had got fired for giving Chris Horn and Paul Kincaid valor medals, exceptional valor medals for murdering a young man. And so after that, you had that was in 1999, then the police are marching up and down the street, so you got like a little military coup d'etat, and then you have, within 2 years later, this little rogue military coup d'etat. They're going around, just assassinating innocent young innocent, I want to say black Jesus Christ, because they are innocent, so they're just being lynched for no apparent reason. They're good, they're innocent, they did nothing wrong. In February 2011, a police sergeant shot and killed 20-year-old Antoine D. Bryant during a traffic stop. Okay, and the way this thing goes down, I mean, this is ridiculous too. A police sergeant shoots, and that's how they go, right? Shoot first, ask questions later. So they shoot at Antoine D. Bryant during a traffic stop after the car Bryant was riding, and they ran over. They said they ran over his partner's legs. I don't even know, if that's even true. So I can see the car maybe hitting them or about coming close to them in order to get away. And as they're driving away, the sergeant says he aimed for the driver, but instead he hits the passenger side, Antoine D., who does nothing. And they're going to eventually kill another passenger later on, 2 years ago in 2011, Leon Brackens. So they, the vehicle almost runs over them. They just start firing shots, and then they hit people that's in the middle. It almost reminds me of the black woman with the family that was having some issues with the police. The police officer, as she drives away, they just start shooting at the van, just anywhere. The whole van full of kids, they just start shooting at it. And like, what's he aiming for? He didn't aim for the tires. He was aiming actually for the van. So Antoine D., what did Antoine D. Bryant do? He was just sitting in the wrong spot at the wrong time. He was in his buddy's car, and his buddy, wants to try to get away, and then the passenger's dead. Same thing with Leon Brackens. Leon Brackens had committed no crime and was doing nothing wrong except for being in a car that was evading the police. So even evading the police, there is no injured person. There's no There's no, without a victim, there is no breaking of the law. The law is there to prevent one person from harming another person. So what was Antoine D. Bryant's crime? He did nothing. There was no crime. I mean, just sitting in the chair when the driver was doing something, and then they shoot at the driver, and then the driver's dead. So, and then Commonwealth's attorney Dave Stingo again decides not to file any criminal charges, and another man gets away with murder. No indictment for the mysterious LMPD officer who was wolfpacking, black clashing with passion and enthusiasm. This shit ain't right.